Welcome everyone to the September 11th Abington Planning Board meeting, being 6 o'clock. Calling this meeting to order. You want to do a Form A first?
Yep,
Okay, so I guess we have a Form A.
you do. It's for 39/69 Russell Lane. One of the applicants is here tonight, Brian Ward. It's really just, if you look at it, it's a, you're just trying to get your shed on your property, right?
It's a little koi pond. And
Oh, koi pond, sorry, yep.
Yep.
Where are we looking?
So this is Mr. Ward's property, and this is Mrs. D'Amato's property.
Mhm.
And parcel, it's this sliver right here that they're cutting off of Mrs. D'Amato's property and transferring over to Brian Ward. This piece right here.
Okay. Okay.
Any comments by the board on this?
Has that transfer already happened?
Has it already happened?
It
No,
can't
we're
until you
waiting.
do it.
Waiting to get the sign approval from the planning board, and then the attorney's going to draft paperwork and we'll make everything official.
The fence is existing
Yes.
and will stay, or?
Yes, it's going to stay. Nothing's going to change. It's more, she's thinking about selling the next couple of years. So we've lived next week. This used to be my parents' house. So
Oh.
we lived next door to each other for as long as I've been alive. So she just wanted to make sure it was official before she sold the house, so I didn't have any problems for me. If she was gonna live there forever, we probably wouldn't do anything, but
Yep.
she's getting ready to sell now that her husband is passed, so.
Motion to approve?
Second? Rick's made the motion. You wanted that second, Rick?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, can I have yours back and his back? And we'll pass them around. Oh, there's Jeff.
Doesn't look like anything's made for fun.
Shame.
Incoming.
Just a sliver at it.
We'll get it in a moment to get them signed and then we'll.
Yep. While we have a moment, I left you guys some stuff, mostly about Rose Place. Extra that didn't get in the packets, and I think I left you the zoning agenda and hearing notices. They're going through a transition of admin staff, so
Who's they?
The zoning board of appeals. Take that. And you sign the application, Bruce? Did you sign the application? I don't think he needs it, but I did.
Where is it?
I gave the application. Thank you. Oh, he has one, okay. Okay, we can look out for it later, when we forget. We're all set in front.
That's it?
That's it?
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
I think I got a copy. I think I have all the copies.
Okay. Maybe it's in the thing.
That's Bob.
Bob's sick.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, he's doing okay.
all right.
Yeah. As far as I know, he's not really sick. Well, it's one actually.
Especially in Colburn.
That's
Yeah.
been like 3 or 4 people in this building who had it.
I want to give him a shot, so we'll get our
My
shots.
mind
as soon
gave
as
me,
we
I
can.
gave it to you. Shit.
They're
Her
downstairs.
handwriting. I can't even
Yep,
read.
both of them.
I have done it enough.
I think. So rumor has it anyway.
I'll check with Kathy and we'll get that done.
There you go.
Get the COVID, get the flu shot.
Everything all done. All right, take those back.
Okay.
All right.
That was the only Form A, Liz?
That was the only Form A, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We have any correspondence?
No, we can do that later. It's really just a question I had for you guys later.
And you guys have the zoning board of appeals agenda in front of you.
Who is chairman of the board there now?
Richard Peterson.
If you listen.
Yep. And Mr. Negrelli. Mr. Negrelli went back on. Peterson, Mr. Negrelli. And I can't remember who the third one is. That's just my brain.
So
Not
they're down,
engaging at this hour.
are they down a member?
No, they have 3 full voting members.
No, but I mean, they usually have 2 associates as well, don't
I believe one's getting appointed tonight,
they? Okay.
and I don't know if they're down another voting member, associate member, sorry.
All right, should we ready to do discussion action?
Does anybody have any comments on that
ZBA?
that I need to send back?
Nope.
All right, what about the minutes? Can we pop back and do that?
Yeah, let's do the minutes. This is July,
17th.
minutes of July 17th. Folks had a chance to read them.
Out of curiosity, did we determine if there is a license available?
So, painfully long story short, I went to the town manager the following morning. He referred me to town council. Town council provided some language out of abundance of caution. I sent that off to the chairman. He said, add it to the letter. I did. The applicant's attorney has some concern about the letter and the language because it says something about the occupancy permit. Or it could hold up the occupancy permit if a license is not available. The town manager has assured them that they do have a license. The that's sort of where that ended. We're all still waiting for some additional things from them before they can get a building permit. But other than that, it should be okay. Language was included in the special permit letter.
Okay.
Well, with regards to that, I mean, the attorney that came here representing someone else, they didn't do anything else other than throw words out of the air, but they're not going to pursue whether or not these people have the right to.
Nothing got appealed.
Okay.
Yep, nope, the appeal period expired without an appeal being made on the special permit.
All right.
It's interesting, you read in the paper that they're oversaturated with marijuana stores and the demand is going down. And yet there are still people coming here looking to do marijuana stores. Amazing.
Yeah, I guess money's in motion.
Right?
Motion to approve?
second,
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Approved. That was the only sentence, right?
Yep.
So we have to call to order the minutes in Form A and the zoning board of appeals agenda.
So I know it's time for Rose Place. Azu had emailed me that, I'm just checking to see if I heard from him again.
Would you mind speaking into your mics?
You still can't hear us. The mics are for cable.
Oh.
Yeah, they're not for, they're for the audio for people who watch it later on.
Well, they can turn it down at home on their TVs, can't they?
They can,
But
but
we can't turn it up here.
no, but these don't work for the volume.
No, but I would appreciate it if you could speak up a little bit. Either that or I'm gonna pull my chair up.
Okay, so the next time you want to speak, if you could ask the chairman so I can have your name and address, so I can clarify for the notes who you are.
Okay, Charlie Collins, 502 Adams Street.
Okay, great. Thank you,
I'm
Charlie
surprised you don't
Collins.
remember me, Liz.
Oh, I know who you are, Charlie Collins. So Azu wrote a note at 5:33. We have flash flooding around my neighborhood. I'm trying to get out now. I may not be able to get to my office and pick up plans for presentation. Hopefully there'll be an extra set in your office that I can use. I do have an extra set he can use, but he's not here yet. So I don't know if you want to talk about everything else until he meanders in.
Let's do that. We'll give him some time.
All right. Mike Peralta's also ready to jump in to discuss his report as well. So discussion on the public hearing, proposed zoning changes. Your update on that I provided to you. As you know, the state provided everybody approximately a year ago with the guidelines for the MBTA communities. The board was then tasked to identify areas that were compliant with the state legislation. On August 10th, they changed that. So everything we've been working towards, all the modeling that got done, is still valid, but they have added a component of putting in commercial uses. So at the end of the day, the district we have in place at the train station is the district that we can use. Obviously, we would have to make it multi-unit dwellings allowed by right, not a special permit. But what they're saying is that zoning with the mixed use, we can use that now, where before it was just, and they have rules regarding that. I've also been in contact with the gentleman who's the head of this, sort of leading that. He's responsible for compliance, for town compliance. So I've emailed him about the land at the airbase, and we can definitely put 60% down there. And I'm asking if we can put 100% down there. we're outside of the 25%, the 0.5 mile radius, the half mile radius. We're just outside of that, but I'm still asking him. I haven't heard back, and we have a office hour scheduled next week for people to ask questions. So I am having somebody model the train station to Center Abington to see what that looks like. And then we'll have 4 options for October for you guys to look at.
How many acres is the current transit-oriented development district? Do we know?
I do not know off the top of my head.
But it's more than 50. I'm thinking.
If we just tweaked that zoning and overlaid it, we would probably be compliant. I think they have actually done that.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what they did within that half mile. The problem is, not a problem, but what everybody really needs to think about, that it's 15 units an acre.
Yeah.
Right? And there aren't a lot of acres down there. Right? But you think about half an acre. Now it's 7.5 units in a half an acre. So you see single family homes coming down and 7.5 units
Right.
going up.
Right.
So that's what we kind of have to keep in mind when we're looking at all of the possibilities.
Well, that's kind of why I'm thinking about tweaking the TOD regardless. I think it goes all the way up to Plymouth Street. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'd like to pull it off Plymouth Street. We don't need it. We've done our share in many ways.
Yep.
So we don't need to dangle any more parcels, I think, for multi-unit. I think we're certainly doing our share. Pulling it back into whatever that area is that we need, to include Summer Street, to include the Plymouth Street 40B, to include the Woodlands, to include some other stuff in the existing TOD, maybe on 123. And then
So if we have to do the 60-40, that was sort of in my head. They actually did that too, where we could locate that 40%, which would be still 400 units.
Yeah.
But with the approval and at some point construction of those 2 projects, we would be 3/4 of the way towards that number. I also asked if we hit our number, if we create 1,022 units in these 2 places, when's enough? When can we say we're all set?
Oh,
We've-
enough, never be enough.
What's
Right.
the period of time? What period of time does it give you to reach that?
It doesn't.
It
You don't
doesn't.
have to.
It doesn't. You don't even have to. You just have to
Have a plan.
provide the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have to have a zoning overlay to do it. And when I asked the question was, the zoning stays in place.
does that take into account?
No.
No.
No. No, 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 no.
Nothing. Okay.
No, I asked that question too.
So even if we relocate a bunch of that space at Union Point,
Yep.
I would still be interested in looking at the TOD regardless.
And the Central Business District in Center Abington, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a little cash that we used to update our zoning, and this would be a zoning thing. So maybe after the new year, when we have a little downtime, we can start that because it was in an article, so it doesn't ever go away.
Right.
And we can engage a consultant to help us
Okay.
get the highest and best use out of both of those districts and pull them back in a little bit. So they're getting used for what they were intended for.
Yeah.
Of the 4 options that we will have, one of them involves the transit-oriented district, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so one way or another, we are looking at that.
Yeah. It would be converting what we currently have into this new one.
Yeah.
But currently our TOD, I think, is greater than 50 acres, and it goes all the way up to
Yeah.
Plymouth Ave.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to.
Yeah.
No, it literally, when the consultant started modeling these different
Yeah.
options, I said to her, if we put 60% at the train station, just put 40% for our circle, or however,
Yeah.
and create a 40% and reduce that district down to, what we need,
Yeah.
the minimum of what we need to be compliant.
Yeah.
So I'll have all of those for you. OCPC has redone the maps and they're more color coordinated as to what you originally saw. And then I have a different consultant modeling the other one. She's also doing the inclusionary zoning that will be part of when we write the zoning.
Yeah.
Is that a cosmetic change, or does it materially change what was provided to us before, what you gave us before?
Which
the
one?
original OCPC 3 options.
That's all still the same. Yeah, it's separate and it's color coded to what they had on their one map.
Okay.
So you'll get each separate map, and then you'll have that fourth option, which is from the train station to Center Abington, modeled to tell you the acres, the number of units, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just take Zero Summer Street, which is I think 8 acres, Woodlands, which is another 8 or 9 acres,
Yep.
Plymouth Street, which is another 10 acres. Well, I mean, there's your 30 acres. There's 30 acres right there.
Right. And it's 334 or 43 or something like that units already.
Yeah.
So you're right, the numbers don't matter.
Yeah.
We have to provide the capacity.
Yeah.
And we can't ever rescind the zoning.
Yeah.
Well, I never say never, but not in the near future, we can't rescind it. It has to stay.
Yeah.
Can you explain, please, 10 acres of open property on Plymouth Street? I've lived here my whole life. I don't see it.
It's 0 Plymouth Street and it backs into the senior center.
Goes about down
So
by
it's only
utility
like that
poles.
wide when you drive by it, but then it goes down and it
So it's
runs.
the area beyond Summer Street
Yes, on the right.
on the right, and it goes down to the train station.
Goes
No.
down to
You know the utility poles
the
are?
senior center.
Huh?
The senior center.
Okay,
Yep, it backs up to the senior
I
center.
see, okay.
And there's a proposed over 55.
And how many units in there?
200.
It was 144.
It was 144.
And
144
that's 10 acres?
or 147. I don't know
I don't
the
know
acreage off the
exactly.
top.
It was just a rough guess.
Yeah, roughly. And that's been approved, so that can be built at any time. Because I think they have water.
Now, does that fulfill the need for units?
No,
What units they're talking about?
no.
Could you describe those units? I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about low-income housing?
No.
No, it's an over 55.
Oh, no, but I'm
No, it
Oh,
just plain multifamily. So
multifamily for the
Yep.
MBTA.
Who's
Suitable
driving
for
this?
families.
The MBTA is
Suitable
driving
for
our
families
housing
with children.
yeah,
The state,
the state has determined that we need tens and tens and tens of thousands of housing units in the state of Massachusetts because we don't have enough housing. That's why your housing costs are going up so much because we don't have enough housing for all the demand. So any town that has an MBTA station, and we're one of them, has to zone an area around the train station for multifamily housing by
It has
right,
to be how close to the train station?
within half a mile.
40% has to be within a half a mile.
So you have to understand, we already did this as a town years ago when we have a transit-oriented development. So Abington is ahead of the curve. We did this 15 years ago. We already said, this area by the train station, you can build multifamily housing. That's why you have, well, Woodlands was a 40B. The Woodlands area, that was multifamily housing. They're building something off next to the train station parking lot in that wooded area.
Right.
This development we're talking about in Plymouth Street is another multifamily. But you only have to set aside zoning in 50 acres. And it doesn't actually have to be built. It just needs to be able to be built by right. Someone has to be able to come in here and say, I want to build multifamily housing by right. Meaning they don't have to come in and get
So
a
you're,
waiver.
essentially you're designating this area as buildable property as per the,
Well, to
The
build
mandates of the state.
To build
multi-unit by the
higher
state. yeah.
density multifamily housing. Yeah.
So
it
all
could,
of those single-family homes around the train station, or if there's a duplex or a triplex, they can take it down, and if it's a half an acre land, they can put up 7.5 units by right under the state's requirement. If it's an acre, it can be 15 units.
So Liz went back to the Old Colony Planning Council and asked about the different ways this might be configured. One option is in that diameter around the train station. But there are at least 3 other options that have been put on the table where we may be able to be allowed to break that up and put this.
so many here, so many here, so many there.
yeah. So we might be able to take, 25 acres by the train station and then put another 25 up by the South Weymouth train station at Union Point. Like make that would count as towards our
Being on
number.
the portion of property that Abington has
Correct.
control of.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's one option. So there's a few different ways that we might be able to do this so that the entire requirement doesn't fall upon that area
One
right
area,
around the,
right.
yeah.
So you don't create a slum.
Well, we don't have the infrastructure to support it. I mean, to start there, we don't have the roads, we don't have the sidewalks, we don't have the walkability to create all that housing, and people,
Isn't that
everybody
up to
there,
the developer?
anybody would, but then they would need their cars, and so that's gonna overload Summer Street and Plymouth Street and
Oh, yeah.
Route 8, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I would also just reiterate that multifamily housing does not equal low-income housing, so we're not talking a slum. Okay, Woodlands is not a slum,
No, I
but it's
understand.
multifamily
I
housing.
understand.
Okay, so there's different types, just to be clear.
All right.
It does impact the schools,
It will, yes.
Yeah,
yeah, but in more ways than one.
Yep. And that's something that every town in Greater Boston is dealing with.
I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, like Rockland doesn't have a train station, and they have to provide housing,
750.
Because
right?
they're a neighboring community.
Because they're a neighboring community.
So because they
Right.
neighbor
Well,
us,
because, well, there are portions of Rockland on that.
It doesn't matter, even if they're just train adjacent.
Close to that train station near Weymouth.
Yeah, and Weymouth has to come up with, I think it's like 3,000. Quincy has to come up with 5,000. I mean, it's
Yep.
every
So
community
and every
is dealing
community
with this.
that's either has any kind of train station or is train adjacent has to do something.
So
You have communities like Hanson, Halifax, that don't have any multifamily at all.
Right.
And now they're gonna have to put multifamily in.
Yeah.
Now, how
Well,
many
they're
times
going to have
can
to
the
allow
state
for it.
demand this? I mean.
they're going to have to allow
that's
for
this
it.
year.
no, this is for
This is forever.
perpetuity. This is,
Now, let me ask you this, when this was put in, and you said the Woodlands down here on Summer Street 15 years ago, was that being driven by the MBTA?
Nope.
No,
So that MBTA didn't, mandate didn't exist at that time, is that
No, this
correct?
was what, a year and a half, 2 years
Correct.
ago?
Yeah.
So this is brand new?
Yep.
By the state.
By the, is the MBT?
No, it's
No, they're
the-
not driving, it's the state's driving.
Right.
yeah, this isn't the MBTA looking to,
No,
to
it's
drive
just-
out
it's
customers.
just-
It's
yeah, right.
It's the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
All right,
So our friend has arrived.
Mr. Azu is here,
Yes, sir.
and we can talk about Rose Place.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Liz, do you need to get plans?
I think I have plans. If you guys want to come back, the board's going to talk all about this and pick an area to do this district at their October 2nd meeting.
Is that also at 6 o'clock,
Yes,
October 2nd?
October 2nd. Yep.
What else is on the docket tonight?
Tonight, we're going to talk about Rose Place
and Union Point.
and Union Point and Pusateri Way.
Pardon?
And Pusateri Way. A change they made to the road that their attorney sent us a letter about.
I think we want to hang around for Union Point too.
All right. Okay, so Azu, you need plans?
Yes, please.
I need these back now.
Yeah.
No walking out the door with them, my friend.
You can absolutely have it.
So if you could sit here, there's an easel back there, but if you could sit here so you can use that microphone, so our friends at home can hear you.
Which microphone?
This one right here.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
I don't know what it has.
Because, yeah, I don't even see if you have anything to attach your plan to.
Is there anything on the back? I can't. Just in cases.
No? So I just put it out.
Oh, someone must have found it at a
Yeah, no.
Can I start video?
Who's that?
No, it really doesn't have anything to mount it on.
Oh, well, you got the electronic copies. Are those the same ones the PDF I downloaded
I think so.
with all the color?
Do you know why I can't?
No, let me look into that for you.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I've got a few general questions, and I'm not sure if they they could probably be asked now before Sue gets started.
Sure.
And some of it's just clarification for my own part. So we have a proposed subdivision that is divided along a town line. And we can see that on page 3. The town of Whitman, Abington boundary runs through lots 5 through
Recording in progress.
5 through 10. There's discussion of the civil engineering feedback that we've received about the back areas of these lots as it pertains to wetlands, stormwater management. Significant questions as it pertains to the overall development.
Can I give you 1 second?
Yes, please.
Mike, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. One of the board members, Rick Shepherd, is asking some questions.
Okay.
This one, Mike, the
Actually-
engineer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Before you start, can he read the hearing notice? That's where we're supposed to start with this. Too sticky.
Public hearing notice. The Abington Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, September 11th, 2023 at Abington Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way at 6:05 PM on a definitive subdivision plan application entitled Definitive Subdivision of Rose Place prepared by Rose Place LLC, 86 Spring Street, Bridgewater, Mass. by ET Engineering, 481 Bedford Street, Bridgewater. Plan is dated August 8th, 2023. The property is owned by Rose Place LLC, 86 Spring Street, Bridgewater, Mass. Property is located on Assessor's Map lots, Assessor's Map 2, Lot 1, 1A, 10, 2 in Abington, Map 19C, Block 117, Lot 191 in Whitman. A hearing will be held at Abington Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way. Plans may be viewed at the office of the town clerk at the Abington Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Bruce Hughes, Chairman, Monday, August 28th, 2023, and September 4th, 2023.
Thank you, sir. And just very quickly, do you have the hearing notice?
Yeah, so it's my car.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
I'll run down and bring it up.
all right, thank you. All right, you're on.
I have the floor again.
You do have the floor again.
Thank you. So we're looking at a subdivision plan that's unusual in the sense that it crosses town boundaries. And I'm making, part of my working assumption here is, and clarification would be appreciated, is that that is the town of Abington Planning Board's jurisdiction stops at that town line. We really don't have, for all intents and purposes, much of anything to say about what happens on lots 5 through 10 that fall on in Whitman. Hence the area on the plan for approval by both planning boards. So it seems to me that is going to complicate deliberations somewhat. Stormwater doesn't really care about town boundaries. And wetlands don't care about town boundaries. So I'm curious to how exactly, never having seen anything like this before, how has the town of Whitman seen the engineering report that's been returned to us? Do we share information with them? How does this get managed?
Mike, did you hear all that?
Yes, I did not share that with the town of Whitman's planning board. This subdivision had previously been approved. The applicant let the approval lapse while they were dealing with DEP on the wetland crossing. And the way I reviewed this plan was for the roadway and infrastructure in the lots to all comply with the Abington regulations. And that Whitman also will have to then take a look at this to see that it complies with Whitman regulations. Whitman regulations are very close to Abington's. But I did not share that with Whitman Planning Board. So Liz can reach out to them and provide it to them. I don't have a contact over at Whitman right now to submit that. But you're absolutely correct. Stormwater knows no town boundaries, nor do wetlands. So in looking at this thing, I looked at this as that it had to comply with the Abington regulations and zoning.
Okay, and there's no reason that we can't share information with them.
No.
Mike said we could.
Yep.
Yes, you can. You can share that with the Whitman Planning Board. Because it's a joint approval. You approve it and they have to approve it. Both boards have to endorse the plan in order for it to be recorded.
Yep. Okay. So I'd suggest that maybe that's what we would want to do. Just and hopefully
When are you up with them?
Well, we're not up with them yet.
You haven't filed yet?
Right, because the last time around, when we filed this, Mike is correct that because of all the going back and forth with DEP and the courts that went back, everything lapsed. However, this is exactly, the only difference is the way we're treating the road layout because of the DEP issue with the crossing of the water.
Well,
Well, you added a lot too.
Yeah, I think,
No, it's still 9 lots. One of those is for drainage.
so I think one of the other potentially significant changes is that at the time that this was originally purchased, approved,
Yes.
my understanding is that our stormwater regulations weren't in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Those have been adopted afterwards. Now, there is a question here in the engineering report that I wanted to get to. Or Mike's letter back to us, item number 50, Part 1, General Bylaws, Chapter 140, Stormwater Management. Planning Board previously approved the definitive subdivision for the project. However, the project is being redesigned/reconfigured. The board will need to determine if the project is exempt. And so I think that becomes a very significant question. If the stormwater regulations that were adopted after the original approval, then that kind of changes the playing field in terms of how we're looking at this and how the engineers are looking at this. So they've put the question, if I understand it, back to us to say the board will need to determine if the project is exempt.
So I would think in terms of the original drainage, the drainage that we have done, yes, we have actually put together a response to all the review comments. So we are not addressing the comments, and what I'm trying to do here is present the project and then get more feedback in terms of comments, so that we can turn around and generate a comprehensive response to the comments.
Yep.
But the drainage, just to address that question, the drainage is designed with the current regulations in mind.
Okay.
Okay, so it's designed with current regulations, and I think Liz was very clear when we started this submission that to make sure that we are paying attention to your current stormwater regulations.
Okay.
And so that's what we're doing. And then to go back, Rick, to your first comment regarding the town of Whitman, the same deal. We had approval here, and we went and got their approval as well. So they are still aware of the whole thing, and they were not adverse to the project before.
Okay.
And then I don't believe they will be adverse to it now. Their stormwater regulations are not as stringent as yours.
Yeah.
They're still doing strictly Mass DEP regulations.
Yeah.
But our design is intended to comply with the more restrictive requirements.
Okay.
Yes.
I can also address that comment too, if you don't mind. The only reason I brought that item up in item 50 was whether or not they have to file the paperwork. Because when I did the technical review on the stormwater management, they comply with all of those requirements with the design. So it's not like the technical part will not meet it. It's just whether they have to file the paperwork or not.
Okay. So when you did the review, Mike, you were looking at the Abington's stormwater management rules and regs pursuant to compliance with those?
Yes, in fact, you'll see that I broke out the review comments by zoning sections, by subdivision sections, and I also have a section in there on the stormwater bylaw.
Yeah, that's item 50 where that starts.
Yeah, right. So I did look through everything and wanted to make sure that there wasn't a hole in the analysis, because generally the design would meet all the requirements for the stormwater management bylaw, but that the only thing with the exemption was whether or not they formally have to file. So if the planning board says this is an ongoing project and therefore we deem it that it is exempt from the formal filing because it meets all the technical provisions that are continued from the original design, then that's your answer. If the board says we'd like a formal application just to have the paperwork intact, that's your answer on that. It's not going to change the design. It's just going to provide you with different paperwork.
I could hop in real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
There are some things in our stormwater management bylaw, like an O&M plan, that are supposed to be part of our file. Well, for the file, because you guys are the stormwater management authority. If possible, I'd like to take a look at the bylaw and see at the end of the day what we're supposed to have, and make sure that you provide that to us. They can make up their mind whether they want you to file separately for the stormwater because they're the stormwater permitting authority. But if I could at least go through and see what we absolutely need to have in the file at the end of the day, because some of this, you know what I mean, it's new and there's a checklist that not everybody follows. And
There's so much technicality to all other than just saying stormwater management. It seems like there's two things. One is the stormwater management, which is everybody's nightmare, and it really has to do with who sues who in the future. But I thought the largest thing on the table was that we had a plan with so many houses located this way with a emergency access easement coming out one way, and we've got a single entrance with a round circle, oval circle, two house lots that, well, I suppose you could sell anything to anybody, but I couldn't imagine them being sold as houses. They're practically sitting on the edge of dry land and everything else is wetlands around them. The two end ones. It just kind of goes back to this is not the same animal that first came in. Granted, groundwater is what it is, and I don't think you've done much to change other than the numbers and the technicality of it all. We're still gathering water that runs downhill. How do we distribute it correctly? But I'm coming back to that original thing that we've really got a different plan, and it's happened to us so long. I'm listening here going, my goodness, I was here for all of it. I'm still confused what came first. And am I wrong? Are we looking at? We had a plan that had an emergency access easement that the DEP said they can't do, or although I read that letter, I don't know who wrote that letter for the DEP, but it's written in, I don't know. I read technical stuff all the time. I have no idea what they were talking about. Whether the 41,000 square feet was done correctly, you could do it, you couldn't do it, and I don't know. They kept trying to.
So Jeff,
Yeah.
And this could obviously turn into a very long and complicated discussion, which kind of wasn't my intent to take us down that path. What I was trying to get at is that Mike has asked that question in item 50. The board will need to determine if the project is exempt. And as we proceed with the review of this, I think that's an important question for us to answer now rather than later. And my thinking is that this is materially different, even though I wasn't here previously, that this is different from what was put on the table before. And I wouldn't see this as exempt from our stormwater rules and regulations. Now, you've taken that.
I'm not gonna put words, and I'm glad that he is here, at least virtually. I'm not gonna put words in Mike's mouth. And I probably would, Mike, if I was crafted, I probably would pose it differently. I think the question is, would you want a separate application, even though we met the requirements of that stormwater management guidelines that you currently have? Do we need to file a separate paperwork for that? Or the application through the subdivision approval process, will that suffice? If you say no, then I just fill the same paperwork, the stormwater paperwork, and I attach the same report to it. That's all. So it wouldn't change my design or my calculations.
Understand.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that it's not as more complicated. It's not being made more complicated than it really is.
Right.
It's a question of, do you want, in addition to doing the subdivision, even though this stormwater complies with your rule regulations, would you require a separate paperwork for that?
And actually, I was coming about that going, yeah, that's one issue, but the issue is kind of moot if we don't say no to the whole neighborhood. Who cares? You know, if we go, no, you've got too many houses, you needed the second way out of it.
Right,
Who cares
that's-
if water's running off because you're not going to go anywhere anyway.
Right.
That's what I was talking about. Step one is this project even valid still? I mean, after we reviewed it a long time ago and it became this. And we've all commented on it over different times. I know I wish Bob was here because I know he had he had a lot of thoughts going on to this project about regarding that, and I wish I didn't want to misquote him, but it was talking about that. I don't know about. I kind of think he was looking for. We had a second way of getting out of here, and he wanted to see proof that the DEP said that you couldn't do this.
And they were not going to support it, and that's the reason I submitted.
Yeah, no,
Bob said he was not lead over, so that was on a formal hearing, so you guys couldn't have taken any action on it. But he was saying if in fact DEP wasn't going to support doing that much work through the wetlands, then that might be a basis for him to say, yeah, this might work in terms of meeting the secondary means of access. And so that's why I went and then pulled all that material together and then emailed them to Les. So that's really why, quite frankly, we have not spent an awful lot of time addressing the comments from PMP. They have a lot of comments, but we've actually set up a new set of drawings to clarify a lot of the questions that they have. But my goal here tonight is to, as I stated informally and now formally before this board, is to find out if in fact, because everything else will be engineering. The planning aspect of this is whether the board, having seen the issue that we've run into with DEP, does the board, with this effort that's made now, will the board consider that meets the intent of the secondary means of access? And obviously, standing on this side, I think it does. And that it addresses, and at least it attempts to allay the wetlands. And I spoke with the section chief of DEP, Mr. Dan Gilmore. He says, yeah, you guys can propose all the replications, but the natural function, that's why it's called replication and not duplication. If you are duplicating it, you can put in exactly the same thing that you have, and they're guaranteeing the performance standards. But because it's a replication, you're crossing and you're putting it somewhere else, we will write out that you're done. So we're caught up, if you will, between a rock and a hard place. So if we can, in fact, if the board were to find that yes, that secondary means of access that is proposed meets that intent, all the rest of it is engineering, and I will submit to you that the engineering was superb, because we're not going to go anywhere until your independent peer review people determine that yes, we've addressed that. So that's really where we are trying to get at tonight, not to resolve all the engineering, because that's That is the work that we have to do. What I'm hoping to do is that we can resolve with the board that yes, that secondary means of access meets the intent of secondary means of access. And then we will go and then just put a comprehensive response together. And if the board decide that no, you don't want the subdivision, you file the application, and we want you to file a separate application with the stormwater, we are prepared and ready to do that as well. But it will not change the design calculations or the methodology because we are following the regulations. And so the overarching question at this point really is that secondary access.
So, Mike, is this an administrative question? I mean, in reality, and we've talked about where when the given numbers, you got to hit 75%. It's just a balanced number of 1,000 answers, and they come up with a number to work by. Is that? Are we there? Or do we need to? I don't know if we can even take a vote. If we would take a vote on that, I would imagine we'd need to have some professional information, which is you, or somebody like you, doing the same thing. So are we caught in between a gray area where he's going to be doing exactly the same thing, but we need to do the paperwork to make sure it's all covered for, so we don't make any mistakes for future projects?
I would suggest because the questions are being asked, to lean to the conservative side, just have the applicant submit under the stormwater bylaw parallel with the subdivision submission. And that way you have all the supporting paperwork and it's being reviewed at the same time so that the stormwater review for the subdivision parallels the stormwater review for your stormwater bylaw. And since you're the permitting agency for both, you've got the paperwork, you have it in the files. And 5 years from now, when someone's auditing the stormwater bylaw, they say, what about this project? Here's the paperwork. As Azu said, he's ready to submit the paperwork if it was deemed necessary. I think you've come to the conclusion that most likely you would be more comfortable if the paperwork was submitted.
Yes.
And I think Liz mentioned it too. She'd be more comfortable if there was a checklist that all the required items that's required under that bylaw are provided, so she has that in her files.
Okay.
Did you want to see the first plan, Jeff?
No. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
That's all right. Anybody want to see it?
I've seen it.
Okay. Well, that's money, and it's just filing. So
Yeah, no, I have no problem doing that. I just thought I was streamlining the process.
Okay.
But the point well made, and I have no issue with that.
I'd rather beat it up now.
Yeah, no. But I made the Rick's point, okay, and then that, like, as when Mike says exempt, and that is a proper way to read it. Wait a minute, what are we exempted? And I will probably, if I were to be sitting on that side, I will express the same concern, or at least the same question. So that's not a problem. We will put that paperwork together as a separate item.
And honestly, along with that, with the comments you saw in the plan about integrating the retaining walls, part of, those are all important because what we found in other designs is that you release this, they build it, and then separate builders come in, and nobody knows that the foundation needs to be set this high. The owners are, well, I'm thinking of Wagon Wheel, what's our famous disaster area on the Rockland line and with the word wheel in it?
Oh,
Anyway, they didn't know that they had to do this, and their builders just left them with a big divot in the front yard, not realizing they had to fill it in. They didn't realize there was all the stuff they had to do to make the drainage work.
Yeah.
That's what, we don't cover it all in the field, and whoever builds whatever, you will follow.
Well, at a first glance, I can tell you at the first glance, when I looked at the report, I said, oh my goodness, Michael, are you crazy? But at the end of the day, he did his job.
Yeah.
And then I was looking after the town interest, and so I have no issues with that. And as a matter of fact, I do have the person, Charlie Macy, here with me, I didn't get a chance to introduce him, but he's the individual that will be doing the work and managing the project. So he actually runs the machine, and he's going to build the houses. He's going to build the subdivision and build the houses. So he's a developer / contractor. So so you're not going to have any of those issues.
Okay.
Any other board comments?
Well, I guess I'm still trying to understand exactly what it is that you're looking for tonight. So we have Rose Place,
Yes, sir.
and then we have the secondary
Yes,
access.
sir. Yes, sir.
Now, the secondary access is that accessible all of the time?
Yes. Yes, it could be accessible all the time. The only
So this is Rose Place.
well,
Rose Place goes all the way around?
come now. So this year we're calling Rose Place, and we had labeled it secondary access. And there were one of the comments that were made by the engineer is that we give that as a name. So we have contacted the Veterans Office to about a name for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be for this too.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we'd have no problem with that.
Yeah, if,
So once
if it's
we know
going to be
what
a
name-
public way, that's part of the
Yeah.
bylaw.
So
of the
once
road.
we have a name,
Yep.
we will be able to supplant that name for this.
Okay.
Sadly, I thought we were out of names.
We're very close.
So
This might be it.
so for this entire
Yes.
stretch
Yes, sir.
is going to conform to the subdivision rules and regulations in terms of the way that it's built, subject to any waivers that we grant,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
that it will conform to, this will all be treated the same
Yes, sir.
under the subdivision
Yes, sir.
rules and regulations.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's how I did my review, by the way. That secondary access road was considered as if it was a way being approved on a subdivision plan, so therefore it has to conform.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Therefore, plowed and kept clean.
Sure,
Patched, yeah.
sure. So what you're asking us, we know what the prior plan was, and we know that the difficulties with that were,
Yes, sir.
and that's off the table.
Yes, sir.
So now it's coming down Wilbur, looping around.
Yeah. And the idea, Rick, is that with the fire department, they've looked at it, they're working on a letter for us. But the idea was about the intent of having a secondary means of access. If this were to be blocked, can they get over here? And if this were blocked, can they get over here? So hopefully you're not going to have both of them blocked at the same time.
What if that's blocked?
Yeah, well, Wilbur itself. Yeah. Wilbur Street's
I guess that's the question, right?
Well,
Wilbur Street's had that question to begin with.
yeah.
I was like,
Well, nobody's trying to get past the last house
yeah, I wouldn't want to bring
and
anything
into
down
9
that
or
street.
10 houses, right?
Yeah.
No, 9. Yeah, because I'm making this one here drainage. This one here drainage parcel.
Oh, you got rid of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the plan that we are going to see, that will
Yes.
no longer a buildable lot.
No, so it's going to be 9 building houses.
Okay. So then this road is conforming. And because it's a conforming use, what are the other concerns, I guess, that the board would have with it? I mean, we can, if it's conforming, then we can say with Mike's agreement that yes, it's conforming. Beyond that, I don't know what you want us to say.
Just to answer your question, if you notice here, we just labeled it lot 10, but you see right here?
Yeah.
That's all drainage now. So that's all gone.
Yeah, that's in Whitman.
Yep. Right here. So, right here.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, see,
That's
but,
it.
so it's not, it's called drainage parcel 4. So that used to be a lot. So get rid of that, so that's not a total lot.
Yeah, okay.
That's sheet 8 of 12 on your side.
Carriage Hill.
Mike, any further comments, sir?
No. I've been coordinating with Azul's office. We had a very productive meeting to go through the list of comments, so he was fully understanding what the comments were and what the understanding is. And we've subsequently had another conversation, and Azul's intent is to go through that, upgrade the plans, and then provide a resubmission so we can check to see that he complied with the comments. He's going to give a response also, and then we'll be able to put together a final document for the board that will show that the comments have been addressed. If there's anything outstanding, that could be a condition of approval. And then there's some waivers that are showing up on the plans. And I know some of these waivers are from the last time, but I will also address the waivers with a recommendation on the waivers at that time.
Mike,
Yes.
when do you need that submission? How far in advance of a meeting?
Typically 2 weeks. So for the October meeting, getting it sometime next week would be helpful.
Can you do that?
We can do it by the end of this week because we already
All right.
did all that. We just wanted to have the confidence that if we're doing all that work, instead of reverting back to going back to DEP, that if in fact it's worth pursuing so that there were secondary access, then I have no problem satisfying your engineer. So yes, to answer the question, I can have the responses.
Okay.
In the revised plan, we have actually made the revisions on the plan. I just haven't gone to printing them.
Yeah.
And then I will have a separate filing also for the stormwater.
So you think you'll be able to come to our next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the date on that, Liz?
October
2nd, yes.
So I can get all that stuff to you next Monday.
Noon next Monday.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Noon next Monday.
Very well heard.
So it was a turn for goodwill, it's something about
If I may.
Yeah, sure, one
the
more.
tides don't rise and.
So, sounds like you've had conversations with Mike. That's great. Things
To
are
get an
being.
understanding of what the,
Yep.
yes.
That said, where we are right now is Mike's correspondence says that JDE is unable to make a final determination at this time as to the project's compliance with the above noted requirements and standards. We recommend the applicant and the consultant fully address each of the comments and recommendations, et cetera, which you are in the process of doing.
That's right.
We haven't seen any of that yet. So we have full faith that you're working on it, but the board hasn't seen any of that.
That's why I'm saying we'll have it to you by noon time. on
Understood,
Monday,
understood.
So that we can,
Yeah.
because,
So, based upon the outcome of all of that and kind of what gets resubmitted, the board, speaking only for myself, I could be looking at this plan in a different way, depending upon what comes back or doesn't come back, or stormwater checklists or whatever it may be. So we have an incomplete set of information right now.
well,
So-
I'm not asking, Rick, that you approve the subdivision.
Understood.
I just, it'll be silly and irresponsible for me to suggest that you act on the plan what we have.
Yeah.
But I know I have discussed it informally because you couldn't really react to it. The layout in my responses, I can assure you, the physical layout of the project is not going to change. Now the pipe size might change, but the layout of the geometry of the subdivision will not change. So with that in mind, and assuming that in fact all those technical issues are addressed to your engineer's satisfaction and to this board's satisfaction, with a separate application in addition to the subdivision, with a separate application for the stormwater under your bylaw, does the board feel that that secondary means of access meets the intent? That's really what I'm getting at, of a secondary means of access. And then everything else I have to do. Okay, I'm not asking for anything else other than that tonight. If the board can at least give a thumbs up or thumbs down, or yeah, maybe in that configuration, you know, it just makes my life it makes my approach a little bit easier. You know what I'm saying?
If we're still on board.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
That's all, Jeff.
This is a little bit like the discussion that we had last time Azu came in with a draft. And I think conceptually you were looking for kind of the same thing.
That's all.
Just, can you tell me whether I should go forward with this? And I think at that time we kind of had the conversation that there is no vehicle for pre-approval or kind of formal process for granting that kind of,
That's correct.
So going back to what you said earlier, yes, no, maybe. I mean, I don't think the board's in a position to do anything other than maybe, because we don't know yet. We haven't seen everything that we have to see. My point earlier that as laid out, it's conforming. So if it's conforming, then that obviously is a step in the right direction. If it weren't, then I don't think that we'd be going too much further with it. So to that extent, it
Understood.
seems like the conversations with Mike Cannon should continue.
Okay.
What are your feelings?
At this point, I'm going to open this up to public comment. Are there any neighbors who would like to speak on this?
Hi, my name is Dale again, at 75 Isabel. When you were talking about the stormwater, the drainage, now is this gonna go into the wetlands? Because it's up on a hill and it will go down, and obviously it's gonna get into the wetlands. So the conservation board, is this gonna go to the conservation board again? Because that was, some of their concern was about, where are the wetlands?
Good. I don't want to interrupt the question until, are you all set, ma'am, with your question?
Am I all set with my question?
Yeah, are you
I
adding any
didn't
more?
have an answer.
No, before I respond, I don't want to be.
Well, okay, is there a
Yeah.
difference with the wetlands, right?
Mhm.
And then the stormwater drainage is gonna go into the wetlands,
Correct,
correct?
correct.
So,
Let's put it
why
this
is
way.
it right for you to put
Everything-
stormwater into the wetlands?
Everything that falls on land in Abington eventually runs into a wetland. Okay, that's just how it drains. So water that falls on your property runs into a wetland.
Well, I know that.
Water that falls on my property eventually runs into a wetland. Okay, what you're asking is this going to go under conservation review? Yes, it is.
Oh, it is,
The
okay.
whole plan redesigned is going to go back before the Conservation Commission for full review.
Okay, that was what I wasn't understanding.
And I would just point out, the commission reviewing this is completely different than the commission that reviewed it last time.
Yes, I know that too.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
just to add to Rick's comment, we've actually already filed with conservation. But they did say to us, well, you need a planning board approval and they do stormwater. Why don't you go to planning board and they come and then we can schedule a hearing. And when we schedule that hearing, you all will be notified again.
Okay,
Okay, so there is no clandestine operation going on. This board will have its own hearings, and the Conservation Commission will have its own hearings. And you all will be notified of that specific date of that hearing.
Okay,
to
I
be
have
in
one more
person.
question.
And just so that one tidbit of information that I want to add to your comment, Rick, about it's a different conservation. The way the Conservation Commission is currently constituted is different from the way it was constituted previously. And one of the requirements that they have imposed is before you have to have a 10-foot buffer from wetlands. Now they require 35 feet, and that's what we're provided. And they want every building to be at least 50 feet from wetlands, and that's what we're doing. So we are very much cognizant of the new requirements of the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And it's our intent to comply with that as well.
So just one other point of clarification. there's a difference between stormwater and runoff and wetlands runoff. So the stormwater, what we're in charge of is if like it rained today, where does that water go on a property and a project? It doesn't necessarily immediately run into a wetlands. It could take, 700, 800, 900 yards before it hits a wetlands area, but it's still going to be running through people's yards and properties and whatnot. So our job under the new town bylaw and state law and federal law is to make sure that the stormwater runoff from these new projects is channeled correctly, that they have trees and plantings and everything to make sure it's not just running off quickly down a hill. There's certain rules and guidelines that they have to follow that are much more strict today than they were 10 years ago or whenever this was originally impressed. But stormwater rules are different than conservation rules because you can have stormwater on a non-environmentally sensitive area. It can be a parking lot, it can be a street, it can be a backyard. It's not necessarily a wetland. So there's two different regulations we have to go by.
Any other public comment?
Cheryl Hatch, 76 Lower Street, yes, the last house on the street. Azul, you were saying that you were removing one of the properties, one of the houses, and the lot was gonna become strictly drainage.
Correct.
Can you just show me
Yes.
which one you're talking about?
Yes. That's this one right here.
Can you come up and see? Okay, so it's the one near Madison.
Yeah, this one right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a half, we remove the half from it.
Okay.
It's gonna be drained.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other board comment?
No, just want to see you go forward and get better.
No gate. No
No
gate.
gate?
No, you're talking about the gate over to Doris?
No,
Isabel,
no,
sorry.
no,
Because he was
no,
talking
the-
about a gate originally.
The gate on the second egress, it shows on the plans that they're supposed to be gated.
Yeah, the answer to that question that you provided earlier, that there would be no
No,
gate.
no, it's not gonna get it.
So basically, it's a cul-de-sac again.
Come on.
Well, it's a loop road.
Right.
So a big cul-de-sac?
Yeah, if the secondary access or what we're calling today the secondary access was not there, it would be more like a cul-de-sac. It would come down and the only way you could turn around is loop and go back out the way you came. And now the plan shows come in,
But it's
you
not
can go
gonna
out.
be gated, so people are gonna be using it as a,
Well,
big
yeah.
ring.
You guys can, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you guys can come up and look at the plans anytime you want. I have that copy, what we're talking about tonight, and I'll have the new copy Monday at noon.
Yeah, right.
Man, you know that new.
You can be up at 12:30, you can come and visit and see the new plans. Better than 4:30,
Can be waiting at the
so,
door at noon going,
right?
I know.
I'll be
She
locking the door. Who are you
She knows
kidding?
me too much.
Well, you came here through the flooding tonight.
Right.
Was it bad?
It was actually real bad. I forget it, you know. So when I came down and saw the fire department guys, I said, tell me the meeting's shut down, isn't it?
No.
But we all had to run to get here. I literally had to run to get up the stairs.
It's
That was
crazy.
time.
Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
And I don't know if it's gonna be able to be answered, it's more towards a,
Sure.
a long time ago,
Mhm.
when all this started,
Mhm.
there were certain things that were put in dealing with our property, not our property, so on and so forth. Is all of that now null and void?
It's all
Because-
on a voice. That's correct. That's correct. And you want,
You guys, if there's anything you could do outside of the meeting, because I don't know what transpired, so we'll have that conversation.
that is a good man, and I will show you where he lives.
I know where it is.
I
I have his phone number.
So we're gonna continue this until October 2nd?
Yep.
Need a motion to continue this?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
One second.
Motion made and second. Continue the meeting until October 2nd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And Liz,
Yes, sir.
Monday at noon.
Monday at noon. And you have to go to the sewer department at a regularly scheduled meeting to get approval. Okay.
I was any time by the time I get out on board.
We have a chance to look at the OCPC model.
No, you're gonna get that in your next
There you
town.
go, Liz. I'm giving it back to
Oh,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Back in time?
So I guess we can talk about Housatonic Lawyer.
You can do that, or you can talk about, Southfield. So our friends here.
Okay, let's talk about stuff.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. If there's any questions.
Bob, I'll take that if you don't want it.
Please, just
Very,
it's just a
okay.
matter of being confident.
Will do, and I'll save Zoom link for October 2nd, okay?
I certainly will.
All right, I'll send you an agenda. Thank you so much.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Is that just Zoom? Or is that one of something else?
It was just Zoom.
Oh, it's a,
Yeah, he didn't have his camera on.
yeah. Somebody's talking.
Nope, that's just me to start the meeting if we want.
Oh.
I mean, because it was not, my house is not built. Okay, there's gonna be a thing like that. There already is. Oh, yeah.
There we go. All right, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Chairman. Okay, next week we're having the public hearing on Southfield.
We close the door just.
Yep. You know what, I'm just gonna move them along because it's kind of too hot to.
Hearing the sound.
Yeah, open the window.
The window was just a mass of moisture coming in. I tried that earlier.
Where's the AC?
Good question.
You can't open the window.
We built this building, no AC, huh?
No, it broke.
Oh, it broke?
It's been 20 years, it broke.
Yep.
I don't know if it was ever
They haven't
really.
gotten around to fixing it yet?
$150,000 to fix downstairs. We don't know what it costs to fix some of this yet.
It's out to bid, isn't it?
Not
No,
yet.
the library's up to bid.
Library's out to bid. Boiler. Okay. So Southfield. We're holding a public hearing next week, or you're holding a public hearing next week.
What's the date and time on that list?
9/18. And I believe it's 6 o'clock.
Where?
Here, in the big room.
Okay.
The agenda will be posted, actually, the hearing notice is already posted on the website.
Oh, great.
And the time is in there. But I'm pretty sure it was, we didn't change it, right? Normally meet at 6, yeah. I am chatting with town council on Wednesday. If you guys have any questions, if you can get them to me by Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I have a conversation with her at 1. I have read, yeah. So I've read I'm halfway through. And I started with 7A and then worked my way back. There's a couple of things, and I also sent the inclusionary piece to our consultant who's writing the inclusionary zoning for our MBTA communities in case we locate it down there so everything will be consistent. Her concern were there's no methodology in the inclusionary zoning for fractions. So I don't know how we fix that. She's going to make some suggestions. But I also talked to the town manager about some of this stuff, and maybe we can amend it and Rockland can amend it, and then it's only the Weymouth City Council has to vote it. They don't need a town meeting. That was one thing. The other thing is, if there's a request for determination in the core development area, we have to have a town meeting.
Say what?
I don't have it in front of me, but under administration in 7.10, if there's a request for determination for the core development area, hearings can be held simultaneously with the SRA, the Weymouth City Council, and the Rockland and Abington Town meetings. But there's no mechanism in there for them to pay for our town meetings. So so I have like a short list of stuff that's growing that I'm gonna talk to council about. So if you guys have
Why would they need a determination?
for the core development area,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, I know why they included that. It was they wanted to basically, instead of saying the enacting board,
Right,
they use town meetings are enacting board. It should be whoever,
right,
or their appointed party. Yeah, okay.
right. And there's other sections in there about notification, and the planning
Yeah.
board and the board of selectmen are in there for the notification. So I've since gone back and started at the beginning. A lot of it pre-existed. It's the stuff that was already there, and they've made some changes to the original zoning and land use bylaws. I hope to be through it.
Have you let our representative know that there's some technical problems with the language?
No, because I just
Okay.
had that conversation last Friday with one person and figured out Friday afternoon. So I'm making a list, and I'm going to talk to council about it, see what their thoughts are, and then my plan is to email
Yeah.
everybody that these could be potential issues.
Yeah. I just want him to know that regardless of how a town meeting approaches the policy of the changes, that the legal piece of it, that there are problems that need to be ironed out regardless of
Yep.
up or down.
Yep, nope, everybody will get that. Is there anything you guys want for next Monday night? I've printed maps. I have a couple of extra copies of the 255 page.
I mean, we can't ask for a red line because it's all red line.
Will
Well,
we
it's-
have town council's feedback on 7A?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I plan to get that to you after my conversation with her on Wednesday. I'm assuming she'll provide me something in writing, and I'm going to send it off to you guys.
Okay.
Is Southfield presenting, are the
They are.
developers presenting
They are.
on Monday night?
Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yep. They're coming to the planning board on next Monday night, and then they're going to the board of selectmen on the 25th. So you can come and hear them, and then if you have
And they'll give the
questions,
same thing twice.
they will. But if you think of questions later on that you
Yeah,
want
sure.
answered, you can go back.
And they've already presented to us, so you can go watch that meeting. Was it June?
Yeah.
Our June meeting?
No, July. Sorry, July 10th.
Do we know how many units, my name, by the way, I'm gonna tell you, I'm different, I'm not Charlie's wife. My name is Paula Nicolai, and I live directly across the street from Charlie at 499 Adams.
So here's the complicated part that I'm personally uncomfortable with. They're not coming to us saying we're going to put this building here and this building here and this building here and this building here, and it's going to equal up to X number of units. It's basically give us broad permission to take this area and build as we see fit, or whatever proposals come in. And then we think that we're going to generate about this amount of residential units versus commercial, and we think in the long run the town's going to get this much money. So,
So you're just giving them a broad go-ahead to do.
well,
it.
they're
There's a lot
asking.
of thinking
they're,
there, isn't there?
they're asking for it. That's the request, and I'm uncomfortable with it. But I'm also uncomfortable with letting it sit up there empty for another 25 years.
Oh, I agree. This has been the biggest mess of any
Yeah.
basement
So, I mean,
development in the country.
the couple of things that bring me some, confidence is that these are the folks that built Pine Hills, and they built Westwood Station and Cambridge Side Galleria.
I've seen some of their presentations.
And they're not fly by night like some of the other groups.
Right.
But the idea of giving them basic carte blanche to just they build whatever gets proposed, or I'm a little nervous about that.
I agree. How many units is the place, housing units is it zoned for now?
None.
Abington's land
Abington
has
is zero.
No,
It's all-
not in Abington, but in total.
was that
Whole
11?
development.
It's 1,100 or something currently now.
Yeah, was this even? I think
What-
it's more than
what
that.
is-
2,200.
What's the number that they're shooting for here in Abington?
They're not.
They're not shooting for an accurate number.
No.
So there is a
They're looking for flex zoning, that they can do a mix of whatever the market calls for, whether it's residential or commercial or a mix of both. That's what they're looking to do.
So if you want to get some good sleeping material on their website, they have a whole reams of analysis where you can read it and you can find out, and there are numbers in there because I read it earlier. I can't remember what the numbers were. It was basically like if we do 40%, 25% residential and 75% commercial, we get this number of units. If we do 75% residential, we get this number of units, and it could be anywhere between. And it just, you know, pull this lever, turn this crank, and different numbers pop up. And I'm trying to look up something now to get your answer. How much is there now?
You mean how much housing is there now?
Yeah. Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding is that they're proposed in this development of Weymouth, Abington, and Rockland, I believe it includes the three, 8,900 housing units.
Possibly.
At one time, when they first pitched these programs a few years ago, previous developers, I mean, they were in at, 3,000 units, housing units.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't good enough, and they changed, and then they had 1 million square feet, whatever, a crazy number of retail, and they said, well, we can't sell that much retail, we want more of this and more of that, so it seems like every time you get a developer in there, you get a new request to change the zoning. And I agree with Mr. Collins over here, my cousin, that this open-ended, nebulous type of format for zoning, I don't think that should fly.
As I got to see from the last meeting, the differences in their rare breeds. This is a different type of developer. Most of well, no, because why I say that is because the easiest thing to develop is residential. Just build it and you'll sell it to anybody. The hard work is going out and find commercial people. Because everyone's, I mean, that happens all the time here.
They haven't done so well up there so
Well,
far.
it takes work. You have to call Walmart. You have to call Lowe's. You have to call all these people to say, come look at my property. Come. People that are building and selling residential, they don't have to do any of that. They just build it, have to make sure they get the financing, and then some sucker will buy what they buy, and then they go on. Commercials, this is unlike a developer I've run into in a long time. Most of the developers you see everywhere are the simple kind. Build a residential, quick buck, get out of it, go build something else. And if someone complains, we'll make another LLC and we'll go over here and we'll. But that is the difference. If the thing comes down to if we lose this developer, yeah, we can get you back to it. But this is an unusual.
The thing that makes this unique and unusual is that they need to get water in there.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest stumbling block since when the base closed. Because I went to some of the meetings when it first closed, and they said, the aquifer under there is polluted, we can't use that. Okay. Well, you want to build 3,000 homes, you want to have some industry in there, you need water. They still haven't got a plan on, and Mayor Headland said to the previous developer, you got to give me a plan. And if you don't give me a plan, you can't build one more building on this base.
So the current developer has very actively been working with Weymouth on the water and wastewater issues. So they're pulling
Weymouth doesn't have any more water than Rockland and Abington.
They're pulling MWRA in to the discussion.
And that's hundreds of millions of dollars, my friend.
I agree. I understand. But that's the path they're taking in the absence of any other way to solve the problem. Now, does that do anything for Abington? I don't think so. Or Rockland. I don't think so. But they're acutely aware of this impediment, and that if they don't address it in some fashion,
this thing won't get developed.
They're going to come to a grinding halt.
Absolutely.
And so they're working with Weymouth and the MWRA now to try and find a way to bring water in through that vehicle. Yeah. And I think, I'm not that close to the conversations, but they're past the preliminary discussion stage of that.
I would think so by now.
Yeah, and
I know that Braintree has refused them the right to come across Braintree.
Yeah.
With the pipes.
This is what you run into, right? So you can agree in concept that that's what you're going to do, but you still got to find a way to get it from point A to point B.
Right.
And if somebody in
Well,
the
there
middle,
was some talk at one time. Well, we can tap into Braintree because they have the closest thing, and the mayor over there said, "News to me." Yeah. First I heard about it.
New mayor.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. And don't forget, I would encourage you not to forget that the Speaker of the House represents Weymouth. So if they want to go through the MWRA, the MWRA might find themselves more motivated to build a big trunk line down this way. So just to go back to what you had asked earlier, there are currently, I just had it up, damn it. It's about 1,700 housing units on site now.
Yeah, okay.
That's not including the single houses?
Nope, that is
And the.
Single and the condos and apartments probably?
everything.
55?
Everything.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't have a specific, I'm looking at something else. Here it is. 1,274 homes, 2,400 residents, 67 school kids. That's current.
Well, so you're talking like, what, 4,000? It's kind of a ballpark number. 3,900,
You mean
4,000.
people?
No, units. You said 1,200 and 2,700, right?
I said 1,200 homes.
And then 2,700.
Those 2,700 people living in 20.
Oh,
in
2,700 people, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's a very younger or downsized crowd that lives there. So that either people who are just 23, 24 who are starting out and buying an apartment, or people who have downsized their homes and moved into something smaller. There's not a lot of kids in the area now. But yeah, if you watch the presentation and it's on YouTube, one of the things they spend time talking about is they can't move forward without infrastructure in place, and that's their job to figure it out. Yep, it's water and it's sewer, power, all that stuff. And so that's their job, is to figure it all out.
So what power does the planning board have to go forward in the zoning board, not so that you don't just kind of give them carte blanche, but you force them into giving numbers? Do you have that ability to do that?
And that's the problem, is that this zoning basically says, I don't know, Bruce, if you've read it more in depth or anything, but it basically takes a lot of our oversight power, that the projects won't be coming through here. It goes through the redevelopment authority. Mm-hmm. They review the projects and they deal with the regulations and everything else. So we don't essentially have anything to do with it after this.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what do we get out of it, what
Well, all of the zoning changes in the past have had to come in front of town meetings.
And that's what this is what happens at the special town meeting.
This will happen, and when is the
October
special-
14th,
It will be a special town meeting?
9 o'clock in the morning at the high school.
They're also doing the
Special
fire
town meeting.
station that day.
But that's not for Southfield.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
It's for both.
It's for the proposed
Oh,
zoning
what?
changes and the
Fire station.
DPW fire station.
14th?
October 14th. It's a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock.
Yep, at the high school.
And at the high school?
Yep.
Coffee and donuts?
Right? Somebody should provide that.
Well, this is like what happened out at Devon's, because Devon's was made up of several towns. And when they redeveloped that place, that redeveloping authority really had the control of that place versus the towns. So that's what I was involved with the Southfield redevelopment for a long time when I worked for Old Colony Planning Council. And that's the way it is up there. Special district.
Yeah, but was their initial organization up there any different than what we've got over here? Because this was designed and developed by Kerry and Kennedy, and I don't have a whole lot of faith in either one of those two guys.
Yeah, neither of them around anymore, so.
Well,
No, but
No,
I believe that Ms. Hughes was saying that because it's 3 towns, it's much more difficult because it's 3 towns trying to put together a unit as opposed to, I was
Well, it is.
familiar with Brunswick Naval Air Station.
Yeah.
That place is booming.
Yeah,
And
so
they have
there's,
their minutes.
there's going to be, there's already a zoning bylaw in place, and that's the zoning bylaw under which the construction is happening in Weymouth. That's not going to change. So the developer's representation back to Weymouth is that portion of the zoning bylaw will stay as it is. And what they're coming back and requesting a tweak, if you will, or change to the zoning bylaw, which is the part where they say to us, we want flex zoning.
Which we went from pure recreational to, which has 0 population. Yeah.
Yeah.
what,
And then the other piece of this is this other discussion of where we're talking about potentially putting 60% of the MBTA zoning with the by right construction possibility on the base. So if we were to do that, then that kind of speaks to a tacit approval of multifamily dwellings.
Right, yeah.
What percent of property over there does Abington actually own? Is it 8%?
It's like 18.
I was gonna say 13 or 18 or
Yeah, it's like
something,
18%, 16,
That much?
17, yeah.
Really?
It's like 70 odd acres of buildable.
Okay.
So I went, 'cause I was trying to get my head around what that meant, so I went back to assessor's maps. And if you take Strawberry Valley Golf Course and
This is kind of it here.
Oh, all right, yeah, I was just gonna
It's
go.
the mile, it's the.
You know what, I'll grab
it's
some for you,
basically
Jeff.
to the right of the runway, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
if you take the
So
land that
it's-
represents Strawberry
It's down along
Valley,
Route 58. Yeah.
the land that represents Highland Grove, and the land that represents the high school, middle school campus, those three
Units put
units
together.
of those lots of land,
That's like 78.
that's roughly 70 odd acres. So it's not a trivial amount of buildable property up there.
But one thing they would do, that green, it's almost like a green border around it. That would remain open space in order to satisfy their federal, what is it, wildlife,
This is Rockland here.
some of their federal permitting
This is
needs.
Abington here.
Oh, so that, okay.
I believe.
So it's not like it's, just local zoning. It's like, no, they need to keep that for federal permitting rules.
Yeah, it's kind of like this
Yeah.
piece.
And so that,
Mark the streets on there.
that
Try.
marks, that checked area in the middle, that lighter green section in the middle becomes the development area. And in that area, you have the runway that goes through the two runways.
What's that, the
Yeah.
checked area?
Yeah. So there's a major, like, basically north-south runway.
Yeah.
That's going to remain green, and it connects basically the north and the south open space areas. Again, I think it's for part of their environmental permitting that they need. So there'll be some green strips in the middle.
Is this line here, is this supposed to represent Route 58?
No, the line through it. Those are the town lines.
Yeah, no,
So this
This-
is,
So this is Abington.
so this is Abington,
yeah, I
and that's
said,
Rockland,
but-
and that's all Weymouth.
it would be nice if there was a road in here so I could orientate myself.
Funny you should mention that.
Like, where's Route 58, where's
Well,
Adams Street?
these are the buildings that are already up.
Right there.
Yeah.
So these are the ones you can see from Route 18, so
Jogging
Charter
there,
Road is probably right down
So
here somewhere.
this looks like probably Route 58, because you come in off of here and you go into Trotter Road.
Well, 58 would be over here, this would be 18.
I'm sorry, 18, I'm
Yep.
sorry, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if there's
All right,
anything
all right,
there.
it's just,
Yep, and then
yeah, it's,
this is probably where,
Oh,
it comes out onto 248, over here,
yeah, okay.
right?
Yeah, right, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
pond.
okay, yeah, right,
Drive.
yeah, right.
I was thinking of a manufacturing place.
It would be nice if they put dotted lines in there or something.
So they're gonna have a presentation with
Yeah,
multiple
okay.
maps,
Yeah,
showing the roads next week.
I don't know what that is. It could be right here.
Thompson Pond technically is the property. but-
What is this wetland?
So that's where it
No,
goes
that
out.
hash
That's
marked area is the
Developable?
MUDD. They're calling it MUDD, but it's a multiple use flex zone.
So this is the part.
So where that lives,
It's called multi-use development right in here.
right?
All this stuff is multi-use.
This is all,
This is all multi-use
Oh, okay,
development.
okay.
This stuff is the stuff that's already built.
Yep.
So that's gonna stay the way it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Same as that, and then all the green space around, I think they told you is open space. And then there'll be a couple of open space,
on your computer, you know.
green areas where the runways are, that'll run in here. They're not shown on this map, but next week when you come, they'll show the different maps, where the roads are,
Yeah,
what
okay,
currently
okay,
exists.
okay.
Yeah, they'll have all that for you
All
next
right,
week.
all right. So they'll probably have handouts.
So that's all I copied for, so if they bring something different, they bring something different.
Yeah.
But all of the handouts that they gave the board at the meeting in July is on our website.
Okay,
So you can pop in there and look at the slide deck that they gave us.
okay.
which has a couple of those different maps in there.
I just have to say that I fully agree with you, Mr. Collins, and be worried about giving them anybody carte blanche. But
Well, your names are gonna be on the bottom line.
Town meeting.
No, if that happens, and repercussions are gonna come back on your board.
No,
Well-
it's town meeting. It's
Well,
your
Town
Town meeting
meeting.
is the
Town
decision.
meeting.
We make
But I
our
can't-
recommendation,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the
Yeah,
town
but-
meeting
but-
makes the decision.
yeah, but you're gonna be recommending to the town meeting.
Correct. Yeah.
You're gonna say yea or nay.
We're gonna include
Thank-
everybody that was in the room too.
So I mean,
Thankfully-
We're gonna include anybody that was in the room.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
town meeting doesn't always listen to us.
They don't always agree with us.
I understand it, and then if something bad goes wrong, you can say, we didn't say that. That wasn't our recommendation, folks. I drilled over there for 21 years as a naval reservist, and I'm very disappointed in what I've seen happen over there. And it's just a disaster. This has been the biggest failure as far as base closures throughout the country.
And the potential was amazing. The potential was
Oh,
amazing.
absolutely, yeah, but one of the early meetings I went to, people over there in Pond Street in Weymouth said, what's it gonna cost to rip up these runways?
It's a
And
lot.
somebody said, how about 25 million? And they went, oh, I guess we won't do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of these big bases closed and they became economic engines that drove the area, and they kept the runways there, and they use them, and they have industry, they have businesses, and they're a factor.
That's what's driven me batty is Devon's closed after the airbase, and it has 100 businesses up there,
Yeah,
and we can't get one.
yeah.
And I don't understand why.
Well, I think
I've never had a good
I think
explanation.
water is the issue.
Devon's was able to figure out water, and we can't. I think that's absurd.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, it just the whole thing is just bonkers.
Yeah, it is sad, because there's 1,500 acres over there of prime property.
Well, you just had one of the biggest commercial real estate booms in the past 100 years go in Greater Boston,
Yeah.
and we've gotten nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a huge failure.
Yeah.
A lot of it was local control, like Devon's Mass Development redeveloped Devon's.
Exactly.
And
That's what you're taking
the
over
three
immediately.
towns wanted to have local control. And when it's like too many cooks spoil the broth.
Oh, you mean, here they want local control, up there was what?
It was Mass Development.
Mass Development.
Oh, who's
State,
Mass
it's a
Development?
state
State
agency.
Economic
Oh,
Development
okay,
Agency.
okay. So they let the state come in and run the whole show?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have rail access. That's a major CSX rail yard.
You have real access.
Oh, we get rail access?
No, but that's a major
Not
freight
the
line.
freight
Oh,
trains.
right,
Big,
yeah,
big
yeah.
freight
Used to.
trains.
Yeah, yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm just gonna make one statement, then I'm gonna leave, because I want,
She's gonna drag me with her.
I'm not gonna drag him.
She's driving.
I have worked in the town of Weymouth for 55 years in education. I started out at Nevin School. The first building that was built in the town of Weymouth that was housing was Gaslight Village, okay?
Mhm.
I have watched the town, which I was born in, sadly. I've lived in Abington for 53 years. But I've watched the town of Weymouth and the school system fall apart because of the lack of commitment from renters. They're not generally people who are invested in a community as people who live here are. And you're on the planning board, and I'm gonna just make this statement once. You need to be very, very careful. I have a lot of wisdom about that. I ended up my career as a school psychologist. And I am feeling very, very sad for my town. And I won't be around long enough probably to see its demise. But I think you need to be very mindful of, as you probably already are, to a certain degree. And that's all I'm gonna say, and that's why I'm here. I drive Route 18 all the time, back and forth, still working at Weymouth. And it's it's incredible to watch. And if they're talking about, and I've heard them present, 8,900 more units that was presented. Now, what they're gonna say this week is gonna be interesting. But I know it was presented to the people in Weymouth, 8,900 units.
That's 2 or 3 times what was ever sold in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So you only have a control over a part of it, I understand. But, and I wish you luck, because it's very difficult.
And my comment about slums holds.
Okay.
Because if you build that many units over there, that's what you're gonna have.
Well,
That's what you're gonna have. You're gonna end up with low-income housing, and it's gonna be a problem. I guarantee it.
any housing's a problem at this point.
What do you consider a slum? Give me a
When
neighborhood.
people don't take care of their property, they don't mow the lawns, and they leave the toys out in the yard and there's trash all over the place. That's what I call a slum.
Okay. Is there a neighborhood around here that we should be aware of? That way you were afraid it would come down into? I just make sure we're working off the same idea. Like, what would be is there a neighborhood?
You mean what, in Abington?
Yeah.
A rundown neighborhood? I can't think of one right off the top of my head.
Weymouth, Quincy, Braintree.
Yeah, I can't think of one right now. You know what, Paula probably knows better,
There are many.
because she's traveling back and forth to Weymouth all the time. And,
And maybe one or two of those houses that maybe look a little dilapidated and their lawns aren't mowed are elderly people who can't do that. Because that was a situation in this building for a widow of a veteran who could not mow her lawn. And her house needed to be painted.
and this is where?
In Abington. And you would have driven by and said, that's a slum house. And in reality,
Well, when I say.
no, but that's, you just said,
No,
the
I
lawn
understand
wasn't
that,
mowed.
You said neighborhood. So,
No, you said a
no,
house.
No.
I did. I'm just.
You said a neighborhood, I said a house.
Okay.
But that's, but
A
before you
neighborhood
say
and one
those
house
things,
are
that's,
two
I'm just
different
trying to
things.
tell you, that situation was a reality on a street,
Yeah.
in a house, in Abington.
Yeah.
And somebody reached out to our veterans agent on her behalf,
Yeah.
because she was a widow of a veteran. And somebody went down and mowed her lawn,
Yeah.
somebody else went over and helped paint her house.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, before you cast a wide brush, some of those situations
Well,
are
let me-
elderly widows
I
who
understand.
may
But let
not
me-
have the
Let
capacity
me
to
just
do that.
clarify, the question was neighborhood, you know? Because when I say slum, I mean a big neighborhood or a big area, a lot of buildings. We all know what slums look like. We knew what Brockton looked like in certain areas over there. We know what the slums look like in Boston, some of the low-income housing in there. Those are slums. Those are slums. And they've been proven nationwide in all the big cities that they don't work. They don't work, and that's what they turn into.
Where do you want
And
them
when
to
you
live?
start building 2 to 3 times what they were originally promised for housing, when you go from 3,000 to 4,000 to 8,900, 9,000 units, it's not gonna be pretty, folks. It's not gonna be pretty. I guarantee you. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back in 10 years and say, hey, I'm wrong. You guys were right. It worked out. And great. But if it doesn't, I expect you to come back to me and say, you were right.
Sir, you're gonna have your chance to make comments at the public
I
hearing
will.
and at the special town meeting.
I will.
So,
No, and I'm not necessarily in agreement with Charlie. I'm not gonna say that, right straight out. But.
I thought you were on my side.
My thing is that there are more people, there's always more people, more problems. More people, more problems, period. I don't care whether it's fire, police, whether it's, and, you know, whatever the needs are, more services, more need, more whatever. We do need to get more industry or more business involved.
Well, look at our governor. She's talking a 1,000 people coming in a month.
Cut off the conversation.
Trying to find housing for them.
Thank you.
okay, we need to cut
You're
this
driving,
conversation
so-
off.
Pardon me?
I said, you're driving, so.
Yes, he's gonna come with me. No, we have already agreed to disagree on many occasions, but we're still neighbors for 54 years. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Good night now.
Good night.
Say hi to Joe for me, will you?
I will do that, thank you.
Good seeing you. Yeah.
Have a good one.
Charlie Collins.
For Collins.
How are you?
Where do you live? Orange Street.
Okay.
So did you drop something there?
Oh, I did, thank you. All right. Well, we will see you at the upcoming meetings. Good meeting.
Okay.
Moving right along. I guess we should wait till Jen comes back.
What's left?
Pusateri, right? Not that I just wanted you guys, it's more of an informational thing, because I think they already did it.
Yep.
They already did.
Whatever they were gonna do.
The berm?
And- yeah.
Cape Cod berm? Okay.
So the last thing I have is, we have a list of veterans that existed before I started. So Bruce, you would be the only one. Do you have any idea where that list came from? The list that we're naming the streets after veterans killed in action?
That might have even come before my time.
Okay.
25 years.
Here's the problem. Azu did reach out for a veteran's name for Rose Place. And the name we have is Henry C. Hurt. And that's the name. I emailed Azu and I CC'd the veterans agent on it just so he would know. And it's the last name we have, except for George Wharf Way, which is part of Birch Street Estates. And I'm not sure that's ever going to get built. So
the
it's
last
another name we can use.
The last name is Hurt, did you say?
Yes, I did.
H-U-R-T?
H-U-R-T.
Like William Hurt, the actor?
Yes, like
Okay.
William Hurt, the actor.
Is it a recent vet? I mean,
No, it's from World War One.
really?
Yep.
No, wait.
So I send all that off, and we're good to go. This is our last veteran. And what I got back was a DD 214 for Henry Hurst. So I'm not sure. I guess this is where I am right now. I don't know that Hurt is a valid name, and this list predates all of us that I'm working off of.
Well, is there still family? Is family attached?
I mean, he died in 1918 from malaria, so.
Yeah, big families like that.
His grandfather claimed his body, and his grandfather lived at on Linwood Street, 718 Linwood Street, I think. It's on the bottom.
So there's a chance that it's actually Hurst and not Hurt?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Which would make it more interesting.
I don't know what you guys want me to do with this road naming. Do you want me to leave it as Hurst, or do you want me to ignore the whole thing and go with George Wharf Way? Which is technically assigned to another road, but it's not a road that's probably going to get built.
Is this something that our veterans agent can help confirm, that there is no William Hurt? I'm not William
The
Hurt.
veterans agent is the one who came back to me and said it's Hurst, not Hurt.
Okay.
And I said, but are you sure about that?
All right. So we can, the list we have though is not like in a bylaw. It's a.
It was a list drafted by Anonymous.
Okay. So we can consider it a policy of the board, not a town bylaw that needs a town meeting approval.
Oh yeah, no, none of
Okay.
that. It's in the board's policy to name new streets after veterans killed in action.
So as the board, can we take a vote that says to amend the list of veterans names, available street names from whatever that original one was to whatever this one per the Veteran Service Director's findings?
We can actually do it next week because I don't have it on the agenda. Because I didn't know where you wanted to go with that. But I will add it to.
And we can throw Adam under the bus if there's a problem.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. And that's all I got.
Then we've reached the end of the list, then what happens?
That's it. Well, so then we still have this George Wharf Way.
Okay.
Which is
So then at that point in time,
WHORF.
the developers come in with things like Rose Place and we say, okay.
Star Trek.
Is that
You
what
gotta
happens?
use this, right? That's what.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So that developer came in when only Bruce, Jeff, you might have been on the board. They were trying to preserve their zoning when we were changing it to the central business district.
Yes.
down on Birch Street, and they ran in and they filed this subdivision plan. We assigned George Wolf to it. And then they came back with the condo plan, which the planning board approved and the zoning board denied. And now I think Sean Reynolds went to the zoning board
that
with that
that
road.
project?
That's Birch Street Estates.
So it's still kind of active, okay. All right.
But the name was not, it's just a suggestion at this point. I mean, in that stage, they haven't.
Well, for them, it's on this Birch Street Estates plan, which is never going to get built. So I almost want to put it back on the list
It just seems.
because he's the only one that everybody else literally has a street,
Well, I
which is
think-
great actually.
Well, can we ask them if you would be okay relenting that name and,
The original developers don't own it anymore. It's Sean
But-
Reynolds.
right, I mean, asking
Yeah.
Sean if, as the heir of the property or whatever.
The heir apparent.
Yeah.
All right. I will get in touch with him.
He'll like it too.
Liz, did you have an update for us on anything?
I think I went through the stuff I had, which was the couple of things on the zoning for the airbase and talking to town council. So if you got anything, again, 10 o'clock Wednesday. Does anybody need anything else for next Monday? You all have copies of the correct zoning bylaw, the maps.
Could you just tell me again what's going on with Pusateri Way? Who's on the agenda and,
Oh, it's Sean Riley sent us
yes.
this about the curbing, and it's this was just for an informational.
Because he has, one regulation says they gotta match the Rockland.
Yeah, and then the other one said no, so he just sent a letter of explanation. So if somebody drives by and thought it was rock, paper, scissors, and it's scissors.
Okay.
So, but no action required.
Yeah, there's no action required. This is a vertical granite curbing at
Yes.
the
as opposed
corners.
to the- Yeah.
that they don't. That doesn't. The entranceway didn't exist.
And just to remind everybody of 3 important dates. Next Monday, 9/18, public hearing, Southfield Planning Board. October 2nd is the next planning board meeting. And October 14th is the special town meeting.
And the following Saturday is the town election
Really?
on the debt exclusion question for the fire station, DPW.
What's the date on that list?
That's the 21st. So it's the 14th and the 21st.
What did they settle on for a site? What,
Down next to the police station at where the DPW has their mechanics bays and salt sheds down there. All of that stuff's online too if you want to pop in, and all the drawings and everything are in there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of it online. They're doing a great job of that.
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk about anything else tonight? And let's hear a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thanks for listening.
night.